Hello, everybody. Welcome to this week's edition of UGASports Live. My name is Radi Nabulsi. I'm joined by Dayne Young and former Georgia Bulldogs head coach Jim Donnan, the only reason you guys are tuned in, and we accept that. We appreciate that. We are always glad when Coach makes time to do our show. He's a great supporter of our site, I guess because we try to buy him off with food. But either way, he's here on Tuesday, and you are as well, and we appreciate everybody tuning in. If you would, please share this with your friends. It'd mean a lot to us if you did. Or leave us a review on Apple on the Apple app, on the podcast app. Write a review about us, but only if it's good. If you're complaining about Dayne, then please do not. A lot going on with Georgia Bulldogs football. Players are working out, but they're having a huge recruiting month. They've got some big recruits in May. They're getting some big recruits in June. Another huge official visit weekend. If you watched Rumors versus Facts last night, our recruiting show, they was absolutely loaded. They had special guests on there. Check it out. We've got tons of updates coming. But I think, Coach, the biggest news of the weekend was Georgia flipped a running back commit, Chauncey Bowens, from Florida to Georgia. And there was a little video came out via Carr on his Instagram of the moment that Chauncey Bowens actually said, hey, I'm 100% committed to the G. And the coaches went nuts, and everybody went nuts. It was a very emotional moment. Everyone got all excited. I know that Dill McGee's had him, has been recruiting him to, commitments don't mean anything. If a guy's committed somewhere else, now you know who to recruit against. So I thought it was a pretty big flip for Georgia. They've already got one running back committed in this class, but I think they want to take 3. Give me your thoughts on this, Coach.
Well, first of all, I didn't realize I was going to be on with Santa Claus today. So congratulations on Christmas.
Between Roddy's beard and my red cheeks, like we got this covered. It's Christmas in the summer.
Also, I want to just give a happy birthday to one of our sponsors, Drew French, from Your Pie's birthday today. I just keep all this stuff to myself, Roddy, but I just want you to know I'm working at it. But happy birthday, Drew. You've been behind us ever since we got started, and you and Natalie, great couple of your kids, and we'll talk about Your Pie later. But, hey, anytime you can get a guy to switch his commitment, it's huge. But you also got to keep him, which, that anytime a guy changes once, he can do it again. He plays at a high school where his coach, Eric Kresser, was a quarterback at Florida, then transferred to Marshall for his last year, but got a lot of Florida ties down there. But, right now I would just ask you this. If you do not live in an insane asylum, why would you go to Florida? At this point, they're selling dreams. They're selling, which that's part of it. But if you couldn't go to Georgia, maybe you'd go there. But I just think with our running back situation and our O-line guys that we have here and coming in, it's just a good feel for that. And he's a big guy, can run the rock, can catch it. And we've got a couple more out there. You mentioned Frazier. We got Christian Clark coming in here from Arizona. So, and the one thing you did make very clear there at the start is it is a big month because you can't see these kids in person after they come on campus. You know that in the old days, in January, February, you'd go back and visit in their homes and try to close them. But that official visit's everything now. I mean, you got to stay right on them because the next time you could actually see them in person would be if they would come to our games or if you watch them play, but actually talking to them would be when the next live period opens up. We got a dead period starting pretty soon in July, I think. So great job by Coach McGee, staff, everybody getting this guy. And we had several others here. But one of the things that I kind of felt about that when we saw that little video where he switched his commitment and all that, we used to get some guys that we knew were coming wherever I was coaching. And they get in a room and, there'd be one that might be up in the air, but we knew he was getting ready to. So we would have those guys kind of hot boxing them and talking like Dayne would talk about. He's already committed, kind of like Raiola, or Radi would talk like Carr, Then there'd be a guy that's in, hey, I really like this. I'm coming to OU, or I'm coming to Georgia. And, and then all of a sudden you look at those guys that hadn't said anything and say, how about you, man? And you put that peer pressure on them. And sometimes you get a guy that once he says he's coming, and then it makes it easier for him to go on and go for it. And, the camaraderie that you have. The one thing I would point out to our fans that I've always felt about recruiting, and I really see it today even more than ever, is as much as you want to say yes, you've got to say no to some people that have really been good to you, that have gotten in with your family, that have helped you out with NIL, or have helped you out and built a big relationship with them. And now you got to tell them, hey, I'm going somewhere else. That's hard for a 18-year-old person to do that. You got to get some reinforcement from your family, from your coach, because these coaches are taught to, if you're up in the air, they're going to keep working on you, and they're going to keep make you justify it and all that. So as good as it is to hear them say that they're coming, I know that Bowen's going to get a lot from Florida because, they got to go back on him and try. But we saw a situation where Sammy Brown committed to Clemson, then said he wasn't going to talk to anybody else. I mean, he didn't even want to come over here and have his official visit because he was sold on what he was doing. But, a lot of times when you can get them here, there's a lot of things can happen. Like Matthews came here last weekend. All of a sudden, we're back in on him. So,
Mike Matthews, the 5-star athlete, number 1 athlete in the nation. We had a good update from Jed May. Jed went and chased him down Monday and got a good update on him. And I think you're right, Coach. When you I thought Dylan Raiola, everybody was expecting him to pop earlier, and he actually took time to write letters to the coaches of the schools he was not going to say, I appreciate what you've done for me, and I appreciate the way you recruited me. I'm going to Georgia. It's not an indictment on your program or the way you recruited me. I appreciate that. But a lot of other kids are not as mature as Dylan Raiola, and you're right, they can't say no. I've had kids over the years say, hey, how do I tell Georgia no? How do I tell Clemson no? How do I tell this coach? I remember once, like, I can't face Coach Pruitt and tell him I'm not coming. I'm like, well, I'm sorry. I mean, you're just going to have to. But don't do the thing where you just put it on social media and then don't take any calls. Don't be that guy. But they'll say, hey, I'm committing at 4 o'clock. And then they don't. It's like 4:15, 4:30, 5 o'clock. They're like, hey, what's going on? It's like, I can't tell these guys no. I love these other coaches. And it is hard to tell them no. And I think that's a great way to put it.
Yeah. Another thing that I enjoyed, I think it was yesterday or the day before, they came out with the newest 5-star rankings, which I don't get too caught up in rankings, but what I am caught up in is the amount of players that Georgia's in on, of those 20 or 25 kids, that we're right in the ball game.
Yeah.
And when you're going after the best guys in the nation, and they're a large percentage of them are coming to your place, that means that you're going to keep on trucking, man. And I thought it was a pretty salient little fact there that just about everyone that they talked about, Georgia was in the mix, and it's just a real testimony to our staff and our own players. Our players do a really good job with these guys. I'm just really impressed with the way that they're. You can't fake that. I mean, if you don't like something about the place, or you're not happy with it, you're going to have a hard time looking somebody else in the eye and telling them, hey, you need to come here or whatever. But it's always tough if you got a guy comes on official visit and the people there are saying, look, man, you don't want to come here. These guys here, they're going to jack you around. So we got really good recruiters here on campus, these our own players, and they're basing it a lot on results. You keep hearing about these guys going to the league, all that. 57 players here since Isaiah McKenzie went. 57 to the league. The first year we had 1. That's unbelievable.
I can't wrap my mind about that. Dayne, you've covered the chronicle of the change at Georgia, and now you see that from my standpoint, we used to go to a 7-on-7 at Georgia when Kirby would still let us in, or we'd go to a 7-on-7, some pylon one or Under Armour or something like that, and Corky Kell, and we'd see 10, 13 guys at Georgia's recruiting. Now it's across the nation. We can't go see these kids as much as we used to because they're pulling kids out of Arizona. They just had a big defensive interior tackle come down from New Jersey. They're pulling kids out of Iowa, all the California kids. We always said that Georgia needs to, put up fences on its borders, lock it down. You saw some of the battles between Georgia and Auburn, front and center, trying to keep them from poaching the west part of the state. But now Georgia literally is, as Coach pointed out, when you look at the top 25 or top 32 players or five-star guys, every second one of them mentions Georgia and comes to visit Georgia. And that recruiting train and that level is, I'm not saying it's a secret to Kirby's success because they got to win games, but man, that when you're able to take one of Florida's best players on a weekend, that's pretty
well, it's like what Coach just said. Like, if you're a player, why would you go to Florida over Georgia? Georgia has elevated to a different caliber, and maybe Florida's sunk into one that's a little bit more difficult. I would even argue in the state of Florida, if you're going to a school, why would you select Florida over Florida State or Miami right now? I think that's the bigger discussion compared to Georgia.
Yeah. Well, it's a toss up with Miami and Florida right now. I mean, come on.
I'm just saying, and you probably get a little more cash going down to Miami.
Hey, Miami lost to Middle Tennessee State like a tom-tom last year. But, I'm relishing.
Blue Raiders.
I'm relishing that, though, because you always want to keep them down because they're tough. I mean, you look what Tennessee's all of a sudden 2 years later, look where they are and where they were. I mean, we don't need all of a sudden for Florida to do the same thing because,
sure.
Of course, everybody says it's good for the league and all that. Who knows? I'm not worried about the other teams in there as much as I must continue to do what we got to do. But we got a lot of good things going on over here today. 32 teams from around the South are here for what we call a 7-on-7 tournament. And the thing that's really good about that from my perspective as a former coach is not so much the juniors and seniors that are playing because you already know about them, but there might be a guy that's in the 9th grade or 10th grade, first time he's ever been to the University of Georgia, and he gets to go out there in Sanford Stadium and play a game. And that's a lasting memory that just really gets them started. And that's why we do such a good job of trying to get as many teams in here. It's a real logistical nightmare moving them around in the buses and all, playing on intramural fields and our fields and going down to the stadium for the championship games. But it's just a real good PR move by Coach Smart and the staff. And it's very, very competitive deal. I mean, these kids, I remember 2 years ago, we had a team up here from Miami. I don't know if it was Miami Central or whatever it was, but what a bunch of athletes they had. And everyone I asked about was either going into the 9th grade or going into the 10th grade. I mean, just athletes out there everywhere. So bear with me. I hope you're getting the point here, fans, that this is a really good vehicle for us. And at the same time, while they're here, you use that ability of having a camp, quote, camp, where you can invite individuals to come too and test them while the kids are playing. So there might be 15 or 20 athletes here today that are being looked at by Kirby and the staff while the teams are playing 7-on-7. So it's just a really good vehicle for evaluation and for morale. I mean, can you imagine when those kids get back on the bus today and they're going back home and can't wait to go tell their parents what they did? Hey, I was at the University of Georgia. I scored a touchdown in Sanford Stadium. I mean, it's really cool. And I'm just happy that I'm going to go over there when this show's over and watch a little bit of it because it makes my mouth water.
Well, it's all the little things like that that build into relationships with people, even before you know that may be something that later on manifests itself to be helpful for both sides. When you heard Dominic Raiola say that he loved Georgia for a while, that he's always felt at home at Georgia, like guys from Nebraska playing the league forever. Like there were touch points around UGA that were beneficial in that recruitment. And that stuff can happen at any time. You really can't predict it. It's just kind of a culture thing. And Georgia does a really good job of that.
I remember the coaches scrambling to figure out who this ninth grade, this freshman, rising freshman was, who was just torching everybody. And I remember walking up to him going, dude, what's your name? He goes, Terry Godwin. I'm like, what, spell it for me. I mean, Godwin just blew up. He came out to a 7-on-7, was torched. Nobody could cover him. He's a freshman. There's juniors, guys who are going to be seniors, cornerbacks going one-on-one with him, and he just lighted them up. And then, man, the coaches were just getting more excited after every specific one. They'll also have a big offensive and defensive lineman camp that coincides sometimes with these 7-on-7s where they bring some big guys in and push them against each other. And I'm sure Stacy Searles, I've seen other coaches do this in the past. You run these guys so many reps to see how they hold up. And you get to perform in front of the coaches, make a name for yourself if you didn't have one before, or if they're evaluating you, they get to see you in action. And sometimes they get to test the hell out of you. Like Coach says, to pull you to the side, do all the measurements, give you a task, see what you can do. This is a huge opportunity, and all those coaches love to do it. And shout out to the support staff that feeds all those guys because they get lunch when they come up. And
here's another thing that's kind of a little subtle thing, but when they come in, they weigh and measure them and they sign in and everything, but they have this little printing machine that prints their name and there's a G on it, but it prints their name and they say, hey, put that on the back of your helmet, please. And so it's good enough. So when a coach is kind of walking around and he sees Dayne Young and then all of a sudden he's got a GA or somebody said, well, how about looking up Dayne Young and see what we got on him? You know what I mean? It's just another way to evaluate. But those I need to put my glasses on to see those names. But there's some names out there that all of a sudden get your attention. I remember we had Durrell Robinson here from South Carolina. We knew what he was all about. But there was another receiver here that was just keeping up with him. And I needed to find out who the guy was because we were recruiting the heck out of Durrell. And it was I don't even want to talk about it because I just remember Durrell Robinson and Reggie Brown, two of the best players I ever signed here. Neither one of them got in school until the second semester.
Oh, that's right.
Michael Adams.
Yeah, that's not a good situation. Big events going on at Georgia. Well, we need to talk about some of the other stuff that's going on. There's some off-season issues, of course, that's always talked about. But first, I want to mention our friends over at Athens Ford. 466 vehicles available right now. The vast majority of them have a lifetime powertrain warranty on them. Of course, all the new vehicles do, and all the pre-owned vehicles under like 80,000 miles, which is going to be the vast majority of them. So if you need a new vehicle, you want to get one for your dad for Father's Day. Father's Day is coming up this weekend. So you want to get dad a nice new Ford F-150, hit him up. If you want to get him an electric vehicle, one of the rechargeable ones, the new EVs that are out there, I was telling you this a few weeks ago, that Ford F-150, the EV version of it, will snap your neck. It takes off so fast. Same with the Mustang they have out there. Go out there, check them out. So if you've been thinking about that, go swing by, do a test drive, see what you think. Of course, they also have the Broncos, and they also have specials going on all the time. Great service department and the best parts department you'll ever see. You're not constantly waiting on stuff to come in. Like, hey, yeah, it's going to be 6 to 8 weeks before we get this. If you want to customize your truck, customize your vehicle, or you want to change something out, check out that award-winning parts department over at Athens Ford. Also want to mention our friends, while you're on that side of town, swing by Classic City Eats. It is a great restaurant. It is a great brewery. Excuse me, Classic City Eats. I got about swing by Academia Brewing Company. I wanted to be a Classic City Eats day. Academia Brewing Company has fantastic beers. They have just a plethora of new beers every time you go in there. So when you swing by And you're like, they give you the beer list. They have to print it out on a piece of paper because it changes all the time. And right now they're promoting their flights. They're like, look, you come in, you're not sure which one of these you want to get. You're not sure how much you want of it. Get a flight. It's basically going to come in an old barrel stave with the holes drilled in it. And they put 4 different glasses into the barrel stave. They set it on your table, and you can have 4 different beers. Try them all. See which one you like the most. Then you can order a tall one of that particular beer. They always have new stuff going on, and they have new menu items. I tell people they always seem to have room. I've never had to wait when I've gone out there because they have a huge dining area and a huge outdoor area that you can sit in, and the beer garden and the lounge, the corporate events. But if you're ever worried about there being too big a crowd, swing by lunch. Try their lunch menu. I guarantee you'll like it. If not, I will apologize on air for leading you astray if you go out there and you don't like either the beer or the food. Promise you.
Yeah, it's a great spot. All right, what we want to do here for the next couple weeks in this second segment is go through Georgia's position groups and just rat-a-tat-tat quickly just kind of remind people who these players are, what they do, where Georgia stands with them. So we're going to start with skill guys today. I thought Brent Rollins had a great stat yesterday on Twitter, Coach, just saying that Georgia has had a running back on the field for every offensive play. I think it was for something like 4 years. So his teams are going spread all the time, and Georgia spreads out too. They typically do it with a running back on the field somewhere. So I want to start.
It's a lot easier to do that and shift them out and make the defense declare. Once you put 5 receivers in, it's a lot easier for them to play more radical defenses. So that's a good way to do it. But hopefully we'll just keep this down to you bring up a name and we'll hit it real quick so we don't take a lot of time talking about the obvious and or have Roddy start singing "Here Comes Santa Claus" or something.
Oh, man. I'm never going to live with that.
That's the goal because we have 25 names here between running back, receiver, and tight end. Let's start with running back, and I'm doing this in order based on production last season. Dayne Edwards had 139 carries and 7 touchdowns.
Well, he's money in the bank for a smaller guy. He's tough. He's physical. He can catch the ball out of the backfield, and he might not be the number 1 back that you use down after down, but he's a good changeup.
Kendall Milton had 86 carries and 8 touchdowns.
Kendall's had a really good summer. We know he missed the spring with a hamstring. It's just a case of proving his health. The fact he had 8 touchdowns last year shows his ability to spring the big one. He's got a chance to be a really high draft choice, in my opinion, because of his size, speed. Just got to show his toughness a little bit and then not get hurt.
Branson Robinson had 68 carries, more than I remembered, 3 touchdowns.
Well, Branson's coming off an injury here. I hope he's going to be ready. He hurt his foot. He's still on a boot in the summer, but they're being very precautionary. But he's a big, strong, physical back that gives us a lot of experience. He was able to play in some mop-up roles. He had a great national championship game. I think the biggest thing for him is how much preseason will he miss? Will he be ready to go once the season starts? Because he can get a lot of gravy there in those first few games.
That's the primary returning production. Andrew Paul comes off of his injury.
I'm higher than a Georgia Pine on Andrew Paul. I can tell you this. That guy is a really good young player. He had a good fall camp till he hurt his knee. He really got into the rehab, and he was right on top of everything, taking notes, watching everything. It's just a case of what kind of chances he going to get with these other guys. If for some reason Robinson can't go, Branson Robinson can't go, he's going to get a lot more reps. So I'm glad we got Andrew.
Another Robinson, Broderick Robertson, the true freshman coming in.
Really took advantage of some of our guys being out, Milton and Paul this spring, and I think he's going to be a guy that plays the role, real tough inside guy. Worked hard on his pass receptions, and I'm glad we got him.
Coach, what is you didn't get to see a ton of the second Robinson going up against other teams, like you didn't get to see Branson Robinson last year, but they have similar names, but to me, that seem to have similar running styles. Is that just an unfair description or unfair observation?
That's good because they're both big guys that
Huge.
That can change direction though, and have good body lean. And what I like for the kid from California this spring was the fact that because he had to jump in there, he had to go against the ones and twos a lot, where normally he'd be going against threes. So without question, he had to develop some more toughness because some of those holes aren't very big against that D line. So a very good spring by him. And you saw in the spring game, he's got some ability to shake and bake a little bit. Came in a little bit heavy, which normally that happens with freshmen reporting. They had a lull between the end of the season, but he's really, I wouldn't say he's felt yet, but he's definitely toned down a little bit. And I'm glad we got him, and I'm glad we got Cash Jones. Cash is a tremendous special teams guy. Got great speed. Has always turned it out when he got into games, and unfortunately broke his foot this spring. He should be okay too. And then we got that Clark kid that came back after going in the portal. He's a guy that knows the system and can do what you need to in some mop-up roles, but he's a good team guy.
Overall, you feel good about that running back crew for Dale McGee?
I've got a little bit of like that Motorola reception on your when you're playing a record, and it's kind of just pause it a little bit. Injuries are going to be critical here. How people recover. We got two guys coming off major injuries, Paul and Robinson. They both had surgery, and we got Milton coming off of a hamstring. So hold your breath, and we'll be okay. But that would be the only thing that would make me have a little angst is we're not 100% there.
The returning production from those walk-ons, Cash Jones, 2 carries and a touchdown. You remember he had 44 yards. Savon Clark had 7 carries last season.
Yeah, but unbelievable production from Cash Jones in the special teams. I mean, he's a warrior out there. He's a player. I mean, he's a guy that I know when he got hurt and wasn't able to go in the playoffs, I mean, it was like Kirby. I mean, it wouldn't be like losing Stetson Bennett, but he was down on it. I mean, it bothered him. I mean, it bothered him that the kid couldn't play, but that was a hole in our special teams.
And I'm glad Savon Clark took his name back out of the portal, just because that guy, like I said, I think he could play a lot of other places. He comes back and he makes Georgia better.
He had a good name too. I like Savon.
Over at wide receiver.
Okay with me. Is it okay with you, Savon?
A lot of returnees at wide receiver, though maybe not the volume of production. Lad McConkey is the workhorse, 58.
Let me just say this about wide receiver. There are a lot of scholarship numbers there, but that's for a reason. You got to have depth, and you got to have a squad that's capable of training your defense. And if all of a sudden you've got 5 or 6 receivers and they're running all this stuff on offense, who's going to be doing it against the defense to get them ready for Tennessee and these wide open offenses? So the more depth you can get, the better it's going to help our team, first of all, and it's going to help them because they're going to go against such good guys down there working on press technique, releasing against jam corners, learning how to recognize different kind of releases to block the run support. So it looks like we got a lot of receivers. We got the bodies more than we got the pure players yet. But I want to make sure that I like that room just from a volume standpoint. It really helps us.
Starting with Lad McConkey, 58 receptions last season, 7 touchdowns, 2 rushing touchdowns.
One of the best players in the country. No argument there from anybody. I know we saw a good report from Jim Nagy at the Senior Bowl about all the things that Lad can do, and he'll be big time for us this year. He's really built himself up a little bit stronger, and he was hurt throughout the playoffs. His knee was bothering him, but he gutted it out, and everybody needs a player like Ladd McConkey on your team from a character, leadership, skill type. You can't have enough Ladd McConkeys in your program.
And he overcame the case of the drops in the middle of the season and was
He
clutch by
dropped
the end.
one or two. Come on, Mr. Negative.
He did. There were a couple there. Look, my expectations are super high for him. That's why that's
There were a lot.
Hey, Jack Nicklaus doesn't shoot a 68 every time he goes out. He did have a couple, but I mean, you got to point that out. This is a fair show. I mean, go ahead.
Marcus Rosemy-Jack Saint, 29 catches, 2 touchdowns.
Well, he's got to get out of the doghouse for that stupid thing that he did with getting, and I think that's something that they're working on, disciplining him on the, getting called for that reckless driving deal. But he's a clutch guy. I mean, he can catch the 6 route, which is a breaking in route over between the linebackers and the safety, and go up and get it as good as anybody. And he's a big target. He's a good perimeter blocker, and he's just a money guy. He's going to catch every pass that's thrown his way. We got a good situation there with him and Dylan Bell that both can catch the ball when you throw it to them. By that, I mean, they got a good catch radius, and they're going to go get it. Bell's maybe a little faster, has kind of a running back type body, but got in a lot of good work last year when the kid that left from Texas was hurt most of the year, so Bell got a lot of experience. So feel good about those two.
Yeah, it was 20 catches for 3 touchdowns for Bell. Arian Smith had 7 catches and 1 really impressive touchdown.
Yeah, Arian Smith is just a guy that health is a major issue there. If he stays healthy, there's not anybody faster in a football uniform in the country. And he can split the free safety, strong safety against 2 deep, or he can split the cash between the corner and the free safety against 3 deep or man free. Just a guy that maybe we're going to throw a few more bubble screens to and underneath things, because he's got that ability to bang it from anywhere on the field. Just kind of temper my enthusiasm with a little realism here. He's got to stay healthy. If he does, it really is a big plus for our receiving corps.
Jackson Meeks had 6 catches last year.
Jackson's another guy kind of like Cash Jones. I mean, he really is a good can catch the ball, not a real fast guy, but wow, he's unbelievable on special teams. He had that one play against Mississippi State where he ran into the punter, which was kind of hard, but he takes a lot of pride in his special teams. I know I said this on the air, but I'll say it again. One of the days last year when he had just made a move, because I was trying to keep him going, because all these other guys were playing and he wasn't. And he came running up to me when I came out to practice. Coach, I'm on the punt team this week. Now, I mean, just the fact that he was so happy about being on the punt team shows you the kind of morale that you can create when a guy's just trying to make some kind of move on your team. So I like his attitude. He's not a difference maker type guy on the outside, but he's a good possession guy, and I'm glad we got him.
I'm going to do 3 groupings of these last sets. Denylon Morissette had 4 catches last season. Mekhi Muse had 2, and Cole Spear had 1 catch.
Well, Spear's a try-hard guy that came in here, and he's right now he's not in the mix. Muse did some things in the spring, can return punts. He's got that hiccup type deal that can make you miss, and there's a spot for him, maybe returning punts or kicks. And then Morissette, I liked what he was doing last year, and then he got hurt a little bit in the spring, but he's another guy that had some off-the-field issues on a speeding thing. But I just think he's got to go out, and he's a little bigger than some of these guys. He's got a chance to maybe step in there and show us some help there, but he's got ability.
Ra Thomas comes from Mississippi State. Dominic Lovick comes from Missouri. C.J. Smith was here but didn't play last season.
Well, C.J. Smith has got that kind of speed that Arian Smith has, a bigger guy than Arian. But, boy, when he lines up for sprints or he goes down on a deep ball drill, he gets your attention. And another guy that's been hurt, but he's got to get in there. And I wish I could use some of my football jargon here, but it would be a little bit off color. But if he lets something drop a little bit, he's got a chance. I mean, he's got a chance. But I like him. You just got to get out there and play. I mean, you can't keep talking about, well, if. I mean, he's just got to do it. Now, the other two, you talk about people that make my mouth water. We hadn't had too many guys around here like Dominic Lovett and Ra Thomas. There's a reason we went after him in the transfer portal. Dominic can be a slot guy. He can return kicks. He can run the bubble screens. He caught over 50 passes for Missouri last year, caught 7 against us. He's a difference maker guy that every time he touches the ball can people in the stands, even the ladies that had their best clothes on and didn't want to wrinkle them, stand up, and this guy can make it happen now. And then Ra had a little bit of issue there when it was a bad move by him there in the dorm with his girlfriend, but he has got some big time potential. I mean, you watch him against our defensive backs. I mean, they're looking over at him when they're lining up to go in drills and kind of shuffling around. They're not all jumping up there wanting to cover Ra. I can tell you that. Now, the better ones are, but the guys that are trying to make the team, this guy has got a good name. I mean, I like Ra. I mean, it just makes you feel good. And we got 3 guys right there that when you look at McConkey and Ra and Dominic Lovett, I mean, among the better receivers in the conference from coming back, and then a lot of potential there with Bell and Jackson. I mean, that's a good group there to me. I'm fired up. And then you don't even go to where we got the best tight end in the country.
Whoa. We still have 3 true freshman receivers on this team, sir.
Yeah, but Haynes is ready from a perspective of look good in the spring, has got good ball skills. Williams and Evans, I don't think are ready. Don't quote me on that, but maybe they'll come along. But being here in the spring helped them, and they're going to get better. But I think Haynes has the best chance right now jumping in there and playing.
All right, Coach. I'm looking at the way when you line up your wide receivers, you've got the quick twitch guys, the guys that get open. You've got the best wide receiver at Mississippi State. You have the best wide receiver for Missouri. You have Malad McConkey. Georgia's one of the top receivers. Then you have those speed guys. Spear, like I said, Smith, and then Arian Smith as well. A 4x100 team that you could put together that's lightning fast. Then you have the big bodies who are going to catch those contested balls, like you mentioned with Marcus Rosemy-Jack, St. Dylan Bell. Maybe Ra-Ra's in that group who just – I don't even call them enforcers, but the guys who can be in a physical game against a cheating cornerback or a safety that's kind of banging into them, they can make the contested catches. And I'm just thinking that Mike Bower is going to be licking his lips, and whoever the quarterback's going to be is like, man, this seems like to be a very solid receiving core.
I think the one.
How do you stop it?
Well, you got to get pass rush, and you got to get. There's a lot of things. Can happen. There's a good looking guy in the background there getting ready to go out to the beach there, Roddy. What's the
that's my loser son crashing my show.
Glad he's dressed. But anyhow, and the thing that Mike does that I like is he has interchangeable ability. A guy doesn't necessarily just has to be the outside guy. So if you had 3 receivers here, and you had a guy that's the Z, the slot, and the other guy. He's got the ability. The next way, the inside guy can go all the way out to Z. Z can come to the middle. Another guy can come to the inside. So it's interchangeable. You can take the X and put him over there, and take Z. So based on a formation. So instead of calling it trips, you might call it trio. So I line up outside in trips, but I'm in the middle in trio. And in treble, I'm in towards the inside. So a lot of different formation looks by Bobo that are called differently, but they show you the same look, 3x1 or 2x2. Like Deuce could be 2x2. And then if you say Dixie, these 2 guys switch and they're like this. And if you say Darling, they might go to the other side or whatever it might be. I'm just thinking of a D and looking at Dane Darling.
I say this whole group of receivers, and I do want to mention there's some other names that are walk-ons that are really valuable to the program, good football players, guys like Braxton Hicks, guys like Logan Johnson that came from Prince Avenue Christian. There's other receivers out there that you may not end up seeing them in games or
They do a terrific job on a scout team. They really work hard, and Johnson in particular gets your attention. And as we've mentioned so many times on the show, you bring at Georgia, the threes get a little bit of work every day compared to most places. All they do is run scout teams, so gives them a chance for them to develop. But moving forward, though, because we saved the best for last, Brock Bowers, human torpedo, can just do everything, and he looks really good. I saw him out there the other day. He'd gone home for a few days in the summer, and it just human dynamo, man. He just keeps practices hard, and of course we got Oscar Delp, who didn't catch a lot of passes last year because they didn't throw it to him, but got a lot of really tremendous playing time there throughout the year. And then Lawson Lucky was here for the spring and really came on strong. And I told everybody when he got here that he was going to be a difference maker. And some people were just thinking, well, he's just the son of a legacy here, and he's not going to. They got him and all that, but he could go in any. I can tell you this right now. He could go in any room in the country and play. That guy can go anywhere and play. He's a big timer. And I'm going to tell you somebody that just got my attention the other day that I know he's not on steroids because he can't be here, but I saw Sperlin in the spring. I saw him in the spring, and then I saw him the other day, and I had to go up and ask the manager because he had on I think it's 88. I thought it was some guy that was just here for a visit or something. He said, no, it's Sperlin. I said, Sperlin, are you serious? I mean, just a transformation physically of how big he is. And he took advantage of shoulder surgery and working out and all. And that guy's got some ball skills now. He can catch the ball. Yeah. And now he's not just a string bean. I mean, you'd be surprised when you see him, Roddy. I mean, you won't be now because I told you. But
yeah, exactly. No, I won't be now. I'm expecting it.
That has to be one of the biggest surprises of me going over there all summer. The few times I've been, when I saw Sperlin, I went over there and I looked at Todd Hartley, and he kind of rolled his eyes. Yes, sir. I mean, it was good.
Yeah,
that's why you watch the show. You find out stuff that you wouldn't know. No, I'm sure you can find that out a lot of different places. But Sperlin's parents could have told you that. But man, he looks good now.
He does have good parents. I'm kind of in his neck of the woods down here in Orange Beach, and he was over in the Florida Panhandle.
Hey, I just want to give you a shout out before I forget. Ron Corson asked me to go to the Georgia Athletic Trainers banquet the other day and hand out some awards. And one of the ladies there was a student trainer for me, and she was from Conyers. And I asked her if she had ever heard of you, and she said, no, but I've heard of his brother. No, she didn't say that. She didn't say that. She said, yeah. I said he was a tough football player. So I want to give you credit for that. And she was talking about when she was the trainer here that at the Outback Bowl, one of our players had got in a fight and had split his eyebrow, and they were trying to keep it from me, and they put a little they put it together, and then they took some makeup, and some of the girls put makeup on him, and they got through the pregame meal and never found out that he actually got hit. But I said, well, hey, I never heard about it. And I said, don't tell me who it was. Please tell me it wasn't Hines Ward. And she said, it wasn't Hines. It wasn't Hines.
Well, next week we will do offensive linemen, so we'll get into that. Talking about how big Amarius Mims is, because he's a big dude.
Amarius Mims, now, I just want to say this too. Maybe I said it last week. I stood beside Radledge and Mims, and I felt like those elves at Santa Claus's house right there that Roddy's got. I mean, giants, man. They're giants. And unbelievable, but
that's what people don't really. Even the small guys over there are giants, though. It's giants, and then normal people walking around between them.
Yeah, you just got to you got to enjoy the fact that, like I was talking to some guys who were talking about, hey, our schedule and everything, but it is what it is. But you got to handle yourself as much as you do your opponent. So don't get hurt, don't get in trouble, stay academically eligible. All those things have to keep so you don't get beat from within as much as the people you're playing against. But I would say the best thing that I see with our team right now is morale. To have a bunch of guys that are all highly recruited and all of them aren't starting and all that, you don't see a bunch of guys sulling around and all. I mean, we got good morale over there. Our guys are just glad to be here, and of course they ought to be. I mean, what they eat and where they stay and lift weights and the locker room. I mean, I could move in that locker room and just sleep down there. I mean,
yeah, well, it's big. It's definitely big enough. There are questions about morale. There's questions about culture at Georgia. We will talk about that after a quick break. We're going to mention some of our friends and our sponsors. I want to start with Your Pie because it is Tuesday. It is Double Points Tuesday. When I say that and you kind of roll your eyes, you're like, oh, he's always talking about the double points. I'm just trying to help you out. I'm just trying to make it easier on you. You can go to Your Pie on the web. You can go to them a bunch of different ways and order your pizzas, your sandwiches, your pastas, your salads, and all that stuff. But the best way to do it is on the Your Pie app. I know you got a ton of apps, but this one actually makes it worth your while. You order on the app, you tell them delivery, takeout, eat in. If you do it on Tuesday, you get points for every $1 you spend on the app. Well, on Tuesday, they double those points. Those points add up very quickly and you get free pizzas, free drinks, free gelato, free brownies, all sorts of things. When your birthday rolls around, hell, your half birthday. I got a half birthday thing one day. It's like, hey, it's your half birthday. Come in and get a free brownie. I'm like, well, of course I'll come in and get a free brownie on my half birthday. Thank God somebody finally recognized it and made it the national holiday that it should be. So my half birthday was celebrated thanks to the folks at Your Pie, and yours will be as well if you use the Your Pie app. Check them out, 70 locations all over the place. Also want to mention our friends at Dead Soxy. You saw my son just pop in here a second ago. He's going back to work. Got my Father's Day's gift because I'm not going to see him next Sunday. It wasn't socks, but it could have been, and I would have been happy to get some of the Dead Soxy socks. You can do that for your dad. It's this Sunday. It's Tuesday. You need to order them today, tomorrow at the latest. They're going to come in a fantastic box. They're really cool. The presentation is nice. It's not like you went to Walmart and got dad some, knee-length socks. These are fantastic socks that he will absolutely enjoy. They don't slide down his leg. They come in great colors. They're cool in the summer. He will love them. They'll be his favorite socks, and he will wear them all the time. So use promo code UGASports to get 25% off and free shipping. 25% off, free shipping. Order them for your dad today. And happy early Father's Day to all the dads out there.
Let's get to questions from members at UGAsports.com. And we will start with DogFan215. I'd like to know how Coach Donnan would handle the AJC story if he were the head coach. How do you get problems straightened out? And then if there's a grudge with a media outlet, or appears to be, it seems like to me that there's going to great lengths to smear the program. I know you can have problems with things, but how do you handle that when things are being reported about UGA and not other teams?
Every outlet's got their ability to do what they want to and sell their wares or whatever it might be, and there's no way you can hold it against somebody and expect to. If you're in a head job here, you can't. There's not much you can do about it except keep talking to your players about and try to keep them out of the press. But there's no way you can say, hey, we're not going to let this person come or anything like that unless they just do something that the president would back you on to eliminate it. But the hard part about it is when people start winning like Georgia has, there's always going to and something happened to the magnitude of those two young people passing away. You're going to get the coverage on it, and people are going to dig and find things. I know Kirby does a good job of having people come in the summer and talk to them about different things from around the country. And That's all you can do, educate them and keep talking about it. But there's no way you can keep somebody from coming to your press conferences. Or, I mean, you don't have to answer their question, I guess, if they ask you one. But, I mean, other than that, I don't know what else you can do.
Go ahead, Ray.
Say the question came up on the dog vent, about motivations and such like that. And for me, it comes down to it's tough to guess someone's motivation. And sometimes, I mean, it's pretty obvious if they have an agenda or motivation, but it's our job for reporters to report the facts. You got 20 kids speeding, well, then there's a story. 20 kids are speeding. We've reported a ton of speeding arrests or tickets or stuff like that. If it is newsworthy, we report it. My problem is when you take that next step and say, well, there's a culture issue. To say that there's a culture issue means that it would mean that Georgia has not done anything to try to prevent it. They just let it happen, or they encourage it. We do this in journalism all the time. We take the next step and say, well, if we have facts A and B, then the reason is item C. We advance the story to a conclusion that we cannot substantiate, especially based on something nebulous, something that is hard to define. Define culture. What constitutes culture? That is subjective. And that's where I have a problem with anybody's reporting, ours as well. I mean, we can report there were a ton of off-season issues right after Georgia won the second national title. You had a ton of high-profile players running afoul of the law. Nowhere in the association that I've seen has that been permissible. So to me, we spoke to a Georgia State trooper the other day when we were out at lunch, and he said, look, Kirby tries to keep him in line, but he's not the one pushing the gas pedal down in their car. And I'm like, yeah. So I don't like blaming it. But if he weren't doing education, if he weren't yelling at him, if you weren't punishing him, then I'd say, okay, you have a permissive culture there. But when these guys are getting busted and Kirby's, educating the hell out of them and making them run steps and just, taking playing time away from guys that mess up, then it's just like blaming parents for kids that get in trouble. It's like the parents were the ones that broke curfew. The parents weren't the ones smoking weed. The parents weren't the ones doing this. They've threatened them. They've punished them. They've done everything they can. But is your house have a cultural issue? There's a culture of permissiveness at your house when you've punished them every time they've done something wrong. So I don't like that advancing the story to, and again, it's the same with fans can do it. I get that. Georgia fans are going to say that everything at Tennessee is rotten. Everything at Florida is horrible. But as media outlets, we should not do that, nor should any others. Just report the facts. The facts are bad enough. You don't need to assign blame or causality just based on correlation.
Kirby will be asked about it a lot at SEC Media Days. I'm interested to see what he says.
Yep, I agree.
It's going to match a lot of what he's already said, but at Media Days, you really can't avoid it because it's just questions all day long.
One of the things that people, when he says we're handling it internally, they want to know what that is. That's none of their business. I mean, he handles what he wants to.
That's a big part of it, Coach, because we want a scalp. So you had two beloved members of the team. They passed away in a car accident. We want to know who's at fault, who's going to be punished. And then the next thing we want to know is what are we going to do about it? So anytime you hear about it, we all have our ideas on what the punishment should be. And because the punishment isn't public, it's the same with employees. When you find out somebody was really rude to a customer, the people want to hear that person was fired. Well, they're not going to let you know what happened to that employee. Some people are allowed a bit of privacy. So, but you're right. We want to see it. We want to scalp. We want to know something happened, so it won't happen again.
Question from Billy Zane says, I know most position battles won't be settled well in the fall camp, but are there things that players can do to help themselves in the limited summer sessions?
Good question by Billy. Certainly there is. I mean, just to reiterate, we have the ability now to meet and practice 8 hours a week with the guys before August 1st or 2nd when they start. So you can get a lot of mental reps in the meetings and ask questions to the coaches. And then they take that out and do individual work with the coaches, and then coaches have to leave when they start doing teamwork. But there's a quantum leap there as far as knowing what to do. And if you go to the line of scrimmage and you're in doubt about what your assignment is, in the SEC, you got no chance because the guy across from you knows his assignment. He's as good an athlete as you, and he's going to out-execute you. So a confused player is not a very good one. So there's a lot you can do mentally. And then, of course, physically, what you can do is keep developing yourself, kind of like we're talking about Sperlin, how much he's worked with get the weight on, just one thing after the other. A lot of things you can do mentally, physically, and then morale-wise, emotionally, just get the confidence of the other players because they see how you're working and how you're developing. And there's nothing like going into a game and knowing the guy, you look beside the guy on the right and the one on your left, and you know he's busted his butt just like you have all summer, and you know you can count on him. You got to achieve that by hard work and player acceptance by doing what everybody else does.
If you don't want to do what everyone else does, you can work for yourself. My perfect franchise.
Oh, well done, Habibi. Well done. Yes, the folks at My Perfect Franchise, they actually have a quiz up on our board right now. If you go to UGAsports.com, there's they do a franchise of the month contest where they basically describe a pretty neat franchise, and you can guess what it is. And if you do guess it correctly, then you get 3 free months of UGA Sports. They do that on a lot of our websites across the Rivals network. A lot of Rivals subscribers have reached out to Andy Ludecky and said, hey, tell me about franchising. And he says, okay, well, what are you looking to do? Do you want more paid time off? Do you want more income? Do you want to be your own boss? Do you want to get out of the rat race? Do you want a change of direction and to be the person in charge, to be an owner instead of an employee? Well, he can set you up with that. He's like, how much time do you have? What do you have by way of capital investments? There's 3,000 different options there, and he can guide you through them. And so trust me, if you've just got, a little bit of time or you're looking for a brand new career, the folks at myperfectfranchise.net, Andy Ludecky, they will take care of you, and it doesn't cost you anything. So you can call him, you can talk to him. Hell, call him and talk Georgia football, talk Texas football, talk football, college football in general. He will chop it up with you. He's a huge football fan, and that's why he's advertising on the Rivals Network. Plus, he's made very many readers at UGA Sports and across the Rivals Network very happy in their new career. So that's the guy to talk to. Speaking of new, I was mentioning our friends at Prime Shrimp. They've become so successful, and I'm going to take full credit for them advertising on UGA Sports. That's the reason they've been successful. But they are now in stores, so you can still do the mail order and have them shipped fresh to your doorstep. The frozen packets that they process it, they flash freeze it with the seasonings, and it comes straight to you. You don't have to worry about a middleman. You boil it in the little pouch that it comes in. You drop it into your tacos. You drop it into your shrimp and grits. You drop it into your Alfredo, and it's ready to go right there. But now, people, if you're out and I'm not going to be home, or I want to take some on the road with me, it's starting to pop up in grocery stores. I've seen it here on the Panhandle. I've seen it in it's going to Mississippi, Louisiana, Georgia. It's popping up everywhere. Prime Shrimp. Now, if you want to try them and they're not in your local grocery store, just go to primeshrimp.com and use promo code UGAsports.com to get 20% off.
We are pretty much out of time, but there's one question. There's others that I will save for next week. We will get to those because we always appreciate the questions we get. There's one I have to sneak in here under the wire from Grand Moff Tarkin. Roddy and Coach, who's the better football recruit? Darth Vader, Obi-Wan Kenobi, or Luke Skywalker? The look on Coach's face meant that I don't think he's much of a Star Wars person.
I'm probably going with recruit. Give me Darth size. I want a tackle. I want an offensive tackle with a killer mentality. He destroyed a whole planet just to get what he wants. That's a Kirby Smart recruit right there.
That's an edge rusher. Darth Vader edge.
No, middle linebacker.
Oh, gotcha.
Smart. Run the defense.
We got to have one more question on football.
All right. I'll give you one football to wrap up on. Let's see.
We got a ton in the comments there.
Coach Donnan, what types of wrinkles might we see with Coach Bobo at the helm of the offense? Cajun Dog asked that question. Wrinkles.
Yeah, I just think that he has the capacity in game to do what's necessary based on what the defense does. So I always like the ability to adjust and have that in your system that flexible enough if something comes up, but also have your tendencies that you can use. I mentioned earlier in the show the ability to play multiple receivers at different locations on the field as one wrinkle. A power running game that you can run out of most sets. He's always been very good at having a guy that can run the power O or the counter. So there's not going to be a lot of bells and whistles, tricks and stuff, but it's going to be good fundamental football, and comes from a football family. His dad was a coach, and this last week he was inducted into the Hall of Fame for the high school in Georgia. I thought that was great for Mike and several others, guys like Marcus Stroud and DJ Shockley, and Coach Goff got in, Ray Goff, and John Stinchcomb.
Jarvis Jones, I believe.
Yeah, Jarvis Jones, another guy does a great job for Georgia.
Well, that's all the time we have for questions. Man, the show went by quick. That's usually a good sign.
Yeah, we got a few in their comment section. I feel bad I did not put those into the show, but I will try to
see if I can answer them. Let's go. Where you guys got a date or what?
No.
I have a 1 o'clock meeting that I'm 2 minutes late for, but I can bow out and let y'all continue.
Yeah, you do that, and I'll take care of the rest of it.
Cool.
All right, we'll see you, Dayne. All right, let's go real quick because we had a bunch from Phil Rogers, who, by the way, likes the beard. So I appreciate that from Phil. But he did have a question, Coach. Any news on the conditioning drills they might be doing? What are they doing to get ready for the heat?
The conditioning drills?
Yeah.
Well, lots of strength and conditioning, different ways. One of the things they do is individual work on what each body needs for their position, and then different kind of running drills based on the fact that so many linemen don't need to do near as much running as the backs do, except just for aerobic conditioning. One of the things they do once or twice a week is have a team run. It's for morale and camaraderie, but everybody gets together and they go on a run around campus and just build up your cardio a little bit. And but more than anything, just change your direction, agility drills, working on your speed and quickness over the summer is really huge for them.
Love it. Andy Adams says, Coach, can you talk me this off the ledge concerning going from Monken to Bobo? You kind of mentioned that a bit there. Andy does not seem to be a big big Bobo fan. He thinks that Mike's a little too conservative, which I would disagree and Mike says, yeah, the anti-Bobo stuff is stupid. His offenses have scored a boatload of points with worse players. We're going to be fine with Bobo. So we got a little argument going on in the comment section there between Andy and Mike.
I mean, it's okay. I mean, it's good to have discussions, and certainly Monken had a lot of success here. But if you look over their careers, I would have to think that Mike has had some really good success with multiple quarterbacks around the country and putting a lot of guys in the league. They're both really good, and there's a lot of things that I worry about. You know what I'm saying?
Kickers?
Who's going to be the holder? Who's going to be the field goal guy? But I don't think anybody should worry about Mike Bobo calling the plays. The other thing is, who's your boss? I mean, he's got Kirby Smart for his boss. He knows he's going to have a good defense, and he knows they're going to be consistent in their approach to special teams. You're not going to have to go out there and score 45 points a game to win.
That's a good point. You got to think about having to drive on Georgia's defense 75 yards a pop if you can get them the back and pin them deep on each kickoff. Robbie Dodson Jr. says, are these new receivers physical? Can they block too? Which I think is a great question because, I mean, we talked so much about how if you can't block, you can't play for Kirby Smart. And
I think
I've really seen him.
Yeah, Ra is a little bigger than Dominic, but Dominic's very quick and can get position block. You don't have to be quite the blocker as an inside guy that you do on the perimeter because you don't have to hold your block as long because the play hits us quicker. But and he's such a threat to catch the ball that they got to be careful about over committing on the run on him. So those guys, both those guys are capable blockers. Oh, and we start every practice every day out there with the bubble drill where the defensive backs are coming up and supporting the run. We're throwing the bubble screen, and you got to stalk block the guy and stay with him. And if you don't, you get the wrath of Kirby Smart.
Yes. I've seen that drill, and it's crazy because the defenders know what's coming, and they test them hard. Thomas Doe says, "Are we ever going to have a home and home series with the Georgia and Florida football?" I think that's definitely coming when they.
I think what we could see is maybe with this new deal with the Florida getting their Jacksonville getting a new stadium, we might see 2 years where we play home and home, but we just don't know with this new schedule. But I will alert our fans that we're going to have Josh Brooks on for a one-on-one here tomorrow. We'll probably put it out tomorrow night, but talk about scheduling, the facilities that we're building at the South, the improvements, talk about the track, all those things that all of you like to know. He's going to answer those for us and just put it out there to the public here. Go to the horse's mouth.
Yeah, put the screws to him. Get us some answers.
You know that, boss? We set that up?
I did. I found out like 5 minutes ago when I saw the new the listings of reserved space on this format. So
Merry Christmas, Sammy.
Yeah.
That's the reason you had a garden. That's the reason you had a garden, so you could ho, ho, ho.
I've already delivered presents. I went on vacation to see my boy. We're heading back here in about 10 minutes. We're going to bolt back.
You deserve it. I'm glad y'all got down there. But
every time I go on vacation, somebody commits, and they have that Chauncey Bowman.
Shout out to that guy that sent that deal about how much he what was his name that is not feeling that good and
I think it was Patrick. Was his name?
Yeah, Patrick. We're glad you listened to the show, and hope you get well and keep on trucking, man. And the other thing is, if you see me out in public, which I'm not out there much, but I always enjoy people coming up and saying they listen to the show or ask me a question about ball or anything, because I'm a lonely guy. No, but they seriously come up there, and it doesn't bother me. It used to bother me when I was a coach because it get on your nerve. But if you got any suggestions about what we could do to make it better for you.
No, I'm sorry. It was Jonathan, Coach. Jonathan. My apologies.
All right, Jonathan. Sorry about that, but we are glad you listen. And
Jonathan Griffin.
He's fighting a tough fight, and hang in there.
Yeah, it's tough. That is tough. Parkinson's, that's not fair. It really isn't. But anyway, hit us up whenever you get a question, Jonathan, and we will definitely move you to the front of the line. And for everybody else, if we didn't get to your questions, I apologize. We will get to them next week. Still 6 more hours left of my vacation, so stay tuned to the UGASports Vault where all the recruiting news is going down. There's always fun stuff going on over there. Tons of updates. There's been a new ranking out, as Coach mentioned earlier. Jed May has the latest on that. We have the Tuesday tracker, which guys are moving up for Georgia, which guys are moving down. And then yesterday we even had the top 10 guys.
Keep up with this is the week of the Elite 11 where they're
Elite 11, yeah. So
we got 2 quarterbacks out there. Ryan and Dylan are both out there for the, see who's picked as the top quarterback in the country.
Yeah. So as I say all the time, guys, right now it's the golden age of Georgia football here. You got 2 back-to-back titles, the number 1 recruiting class. You got 2 committed quarterbacks who are going to be in the Elite 11. They need to stop speeding. All these new cars out there will try your patience and the issues they've had with that. But it is a good time to be a Georgia Bulldog, and I appreciate Coach coming on. He told us 3-4 years ago when he started doing this, Coach, that good times were coming. And you nailed it. You were dead on. Your faith in Kirby and what he was bringing were well placed. So anyway, folks, that's all the time we have for this week's show. I appreciate you guys sticking around with us a little bit longer so we can squeeze in some questions. We will see you next Tuesday at noon. Same bat time, same bat channel.